Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 82 of 911 LoneStar RoundUp. I'm one of your hosts, EJ, and with me today are my lovely co-hosts, Katie.
Hey guys.
And Grace.
Hi everyone.
Today we will be talking about season 4 premiere episode of 911 LoneStar titled The New Hotness. It has been a long time coming. We are so excited for new content and there is so much to talk about. So we are just going to jump right in. And I think we talked yesterday when we watched it that we were gonna like probably talk about the show, but then like save the end for everything else because there's a lot to talk about. We'll see what happens.
We have many feelings on Carlos.
All the feels
for sure. So we get a quick like glimpse of the emergency. We see that Bree and Caleb are back. I think this is their third time, maybe fourth.
Yeah.
So like, what are they coming once a season almost? Third time. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's like talking about being hungry for other things, and she's like, "You've already had fried soup," which like
I had to look that up because I was like, okay, even my fare has like I know people are gonna be like, okay, but all fairs have weird food. I'm telling you, my fare has the weirdest fried food ever. Like I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like fried hippo or something one year, and I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, I can't eat fried food anymore, so I just kind of skip it all.
I don't eat like the weird stuff because I feel like that really isn't probably good for your stomach, but like it's not. Yeah, it's interesting.
Anyway, so because of the junk that he'd eaten, he had to run to the bathroom, and so all of a sudden we start seeing some clips of scenes that are happening, and all of a sudden it gets really warm, and the ice cream cone Bree's holding melts, and so there's like this heat wave, balloons are popping, Caleb ends up getting stuck in a porta potty. It's like all of a sudden this wind comes up that like nobody's like prepared for. It's just like totally chaos, and of course, at the end of this clip, the porta potty that Caleb's in just takes off and floats away.
Yeah. And people are gonna say that doesn't happen, but okay, I just saw something that Ronan posted this video on Facebook. It was a link from YouTube, and he's like, for anybody that believes this doesn't happen, here's your link.
Yeah, some things get a little far-fetched, but it's that can happen. I mean, it's not, I've seen those up close, because different like events I've gone to, and it's like, yeah, those aren't attached to the ground.
Right.
Oh yeah, they're incredibly unstable. I would just go in when it rocks around you and you're like, oh fuck me.
Yeah, exactly. Then we go back in time a little bit to earlier in the day. The 126 is watching the news and they're talking about a rainstorm, and they're like, oh yep, let's get prepared for that. Paul's making migas. It's a Tex-Mex breakfast, and he's adding things like he's listing off what's already in there, and Mateo wants him to add olives, and he's like, no. And Nancy's like, yes. And so there's some.
I agree with Paul. Which side are you on? Let us know.
Yeah,
Paul.
I want to know. Olives or not? I love olives, like green and black olives, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I'm one of those people.
And so we see TK, he's eating just random, like something it looks like he maybe brought from home. And he's talking about how him and Carlos have toured 14 wedding venues. And they fell in love with one just out in the outskirts of Austin, but the wait list was like 18 months. So they're on it, but that right now is the earliest they could get married. So TK starts asking Judd like where he and Grace got married. And he's like, well, my Uncle Cash's ranch, but he doesn't rent it out. And I guess there's loose hogs on the property. So probably not the greatest plan. Judd's acting really cranky too. So, which is like typical Judd. I mean, he hates that coffee maker. He's hated it since the beginning. So I'm not surprised.
I don't really blame him.
No, I'm not a huge espresso fan. Like, I mean, I can't drink coffee, but I just think those things have so many like bells and whistles that they don't need just to make coffee.
Literally.
So he's mentioning that he's stressed because he and Grace are trying to potty train Charlie, which has been interesting. And I'm surprised.
How old is she? I was surprised.
She's only
by
like
that.
Yeah, because I'm like, if she was born in episode 4 of last season, the kid's not even going to be a year old. Because there wasn't a huge time break between the end of season 3 and the beginning of season 4. Right,
that's what it seemed, but I'm very confused on their timeline. And I also think that they just don't research things where it's like, okay, no 1-year-old is potty training at literally just 1 or under. They're making her seem like she's under 1 sometimes too. So
No.
I'm very confused on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And-
typically between 18 and 24 months.
And that's very
So
rare that you're potty trained by
Yeah,
like that young.
I have friends with
Yeah.
young children, and I don't think they've even really, I mean, they've started, but she's 2.5. So, like, that's kind of when they started. So she's not really, yeah, I don't know.
It's weird.
It's a little odd. So Judd's also talking about hitting some traffic on the roads, and he's talking about this guy on a motorcycle who's like pulled up next to him and was trying to get Judd to race with him. And because of that, he spilled coffee on himself. So he needed coffee at the station. And then the guy on the bike pulls into the station, and Judd's
I
trying
forgot
to like
about this part
chase,
of like
chase the guy
the
out.
trailer. I
Yeah.
forgot.
Yeah.
And then like Owen takes the helmet off, and it's Owen,
I
and
just love that. Like,
he's like, "Hey,
him-
buddy,
I
get out of
know,
here."
I loved that. It was so good. Oh,
I'm just like, oh, of course it is.
I know, like we all knew it, but it was
Yeah.
just funny to see like
Well, as I said,
Judd's reaction.
Yeah,
I forgot the motorcycle
right.
bit from the trailer. So for a moment, I didn't even piece together till I saw the motorcycle into the station. And I'm like,
Mhm.
ah, shit, I remember this.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I think it was funny too, because like he's like, yeah, he didn't even like really say anything at first until he's like, yeah, the weatherman said it was gonna rain, so I brought my baby inside. And they're like, you gotta, I'm like, I don't have anything against motorcycles. Some people love them. I've always called them what Marjan called them, was a crotch rocket, just kind of as a joke. He's like,
I call
that's
them a
not
death
true.
trap.
That
they can
too,
be.
yeah.
I've known people that have gotten seriously injured from them, but I also know people that love them. So
my mom was a cop and she had to deal with an accident once where someone got literally cut in half because he was riding a motorcycle. We knew someone who died from the head injury sustained by slippery roads and an improperly applied helmet.
yeah,
they're cool. They're just death traps.
911 season 1. We
I
had one
know.
of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, very true. And he's talking about all these people that he's met and that he's living his best life. And like as he kind of just like passes some stuff off, Judd turns to TK. He's like, is your daddy okay? TK's like, yeah, as long as he doesn't wear leather to the wedding.
I loved that.
Yeah, good one, TK. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah,
Good one.
I know. I love it. Yeah.
That was
good,
so
yeah.
good.
So then we get our next scene is another one we've been dying for, is some more Carlos and Andrea. So we've got them having lunch together, and how she's telling us like, I don't know why you need some like centerfold or cover of Time magazine, wedding venue. She's like, you guys are pretty enough. And I was like, agreed.
I know, like some fancy
I'm like,
magazine.
preach, darling.
Like,
I was
yes, queen.
Yes. And I love how they were talking in English, but then there was like, they'd slip into certain Spanish words like hetero, which is,
I know, I love when Carlos goes all Spanglish.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes.
Yes, I love it.
It's so good.
And then he's talking like your future husband and your fiance. And I'm like, okay, this is like real. And it's such a good moment because last season on the first episode of the season, like we didn't have any of that. And the one
They were broken up.
Carlos,
they were
and
broken up,
like,
and we just didn't get there yet.
Yeah, so I'm like, this is amazing. And they're talking about how TK's upset that it's an 18-month wait for the wedding, and Andrea's not worried. And she's like, well, you guys should find another place. And then Carlos gets a phone call, and it's the wedding venue, the dream wedding venue. And they're like, well, had a cancellation, so if you want to get married sooner, you can get married in 8 weeks. And Carlos is like, well, my fiance and I'll call you back by the end of business day. And then he tells his mom, and she's all excited. And then he's like, yeah, that's not what I'm worried about. She's like, wait a second, you haven't told him? Dun, dun, dun. We've already seen this clip if you saw it on Monday, because I saw it.
Yeah.
I want to know how Andrea knows, because
I want to know when she found out. Because I'm really curious about that. Because I'm like, I don't know when it would have been. Like, I really don't know, and I'm very interested about that.
I mean, if he did it to make his parents less disappointed, wouldn't it stand to reason that his parents would know?
Yeah.
That's
and then
true.
A few years later, maybe saying, oh, we're getting a divorce, we didn't do it for the right reasons or something, but they just assumed that happened. They didn't realize that it hadn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Before we get that resolution, the very ugly green filtered weird weather phenomenon happens.
Okay, that was
at the restaurant.
overkill.
Yeah, that was odd. And it's like changes the color of the day sky. And I'm like,
Well, because they already have a filter on the show to make it look like it's not in California. And like a lot of people complain about it, but honestly, I don't really care. But like the green, like the greenness is like that was just a little much. Like that was just like, no, we don't really need to do that.
So
it wasn't.
Yeah, it's daytime, but then it's like this weird, ugly green filter. I wasn't a fan of that. And I don't really mind the filtering that they do because it gives us a little bit slightly different.
Yeah, a lot of
look
people
than 911.
complain about it. I don't know why.
A lot of people complain.
That's true.
And then all of a sudden, as the storm is hitting, we're getting frogs coming down. Like instead of raining cats and dogs, it's raining frogs. And a guy calls Grace, and he's like, frogs, and she's talking to him, and he's like, all of a sudden he gets a literal frog in his throat.
Yeah,
crazy. This guy is the DB Woodside, his character, Trevor, I think is his name.
Yeah.
And so obviously the 126 responds, and he's like, has anybody seen anything like this? And Jed's like, yeah, maybe in the book of Exodus, which is where the 7 plagues are.
Yeah.
Which I think had been brought up during the last season when the lava and the volcano again.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously this was a quick scene, so like it's really just them greeting the guy, getting that frog out of his throat.
Yeah.
And kind of
that was interesting.
going. And then like they get this hail, and I think Marjan yelled, oh my god, nope, that's gorilla hail.
I know
like,
that
I did love that.
I love that because that's just like so Marjan to say something like that. Because like,
listen, everything's bigger in Texas.
I know it. Like I've definitely seen hail. Okay, maybe not like that, but like the size of that stuff. But like, yeah, nothing like that. Like I feel like I don't know. It was interesting. Like I like that. Like I always wanted like a good hail or like a good like just thunderstorm, something like that. And that's what this gave.
Yeah. Right. It was weird just to see it come and go so fast, but I know like certain little storm systems, like a cloudburst can happen. I mean, it even happens here in Washington. So, but and then everybody's going back to the station, and Carlos is there waiting for TK. And it was funny because like I think somebody pointed out like him interacting with Owen very nervously.
I know he was so like on edge, but I think that's just like the nervousness and like the anxiety of like having to tell TK this huge secret, which still, I know we kind of briefly, put it out there, but we don't really know what it is yet. And I feel like me watching this episode, just until we got to the secret, I was literally on the edge. I was like, and then we found out the secret, and I was like, I don't think I paid attention to like any minor detail for the
I know
rest
you're
of the
saying
episode.
that when we watched it together. You're like, I don't remember any of it.
I really didn't. When we watched it, it was like I was watching some of those parts for the first time because I did not pay attention to literally anything. Like I'm like, oh, that was sad. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a reason I spoiled it for myself.
I know. I probably would have too if I didn't watch it live. I probably would have done that to myself.
Hey, I did that all last season. And I think so when TK finally comes up, it was really cute. He's like, hey baby, you here for lunch? It's just really casually. And then Carlos is like, can we talk? And it was just, you could see TK's face changing. It was like, oh crap, what's going on? And before the storm had hit with Andrea and Carlos, Andrea had said, you have to tell him today. You can't wait any longer. And so we don't get the actual telling of it. We get the TK's pacing back and forth. It's the aftermath. So Carlos is kind of sitting on one of the end tables in the bunk room, and TK's pacing, and he's like, Carlos like, you're pissed. And he's like, no. And then he's like, okay, maybe I'm pissed. But he's like, I'm confused. He's not sure how to feel. You could definitely tell that. But he's asking questions. He's like, so you're married to a woman. So the secret is Carlos is married to a woman. And Carlos is like, well, yeah, back then it was the only way to do it, which true. The story is that when he was in high school, when he came out to his parents, he and his best friend decided, since she was a few years ahead of him, that they would get married because he felt like he disappointed his parents and marrying a woman would be less disappointing. So that's just what happened. and she knew he was gay. They said they kind of were going to try and make it work, but they never did. So it's only been in name only. And they always meant to get a divorce. And I mean, I have a friend that was really close to in junior high and high school, and we kind of joked that, you know, if we weren't married by like 30 or 35, we'd marry each other. We didn't decide to do that when we were like 18. So this is definitely was random. And TK was started asking questions about the friend, like, why has he never met this supposed best friend?
I know.
Like, that's kind of an important thing. And, you know, obviously he has never told TK this. So why is it just now being, you know, why is he telling him now? And so Carlos goes on to explain if he remembered Captain Blake, and TK's like, Michelle Blake, as in, she's your wife? He's like, no, she's my sister-in-law, married to Iris. So dun-da-da. The reason why Iris was so big in season 1 was there were other things behind that, supposedly.
Yeah.
You could see TK getting upset, and I am super proud of TK for the way he's handling it, because season 1 and 2, TK probably would have panicked and took off. I mean, he did. Carlos
Even in season 3, he would have taken off.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah,
that makes
so
sense because
definitely he's had a lot of like amazing character growth in good ways. And you know, he kind of, as he's starting to piece everything together, that, you know, it always had meant to, and then Iris disappeared, and for several years he thought she was dead. And so when Michelle was, you know, looking for her, Carlos kind of never figured she'd be found, and then she was. And so she came back with schizophrenia. So he starts to explain to TK that he's helping her by letting her use his medical to get treatment and help her with getting better. And you know, TK's asking, well, how's she doing? And Carlos is like, I don't know. He hasn't talked with them for a while, and he meant to when they got engaged. He meant to talk to them sooner, now that him and TK were getting more serious and talking marriage and getting engaged, but it just never came up. And then he's like, well, we've got plenty of time, let's get you a divorce. And Carlos is like, yeah, so about that. So not only on top of that, he tells them that they got the venue. So I'm happy to see that TK's like not leaving him and breaking up with him, and he's like willing to work with him to help him get this to happen. But then he drops on that the wedding venue is available in 8 weeks, and they're like, well, is it so 8 weeks is 2 months. And did some research, and the minimum time it takes is like 60 days from like start to finish of a divorce. And according to Carlos, you only have to be divorced for a month before you can get married. So that's timeline's not going to really work for that.
Yeah, that's pushing it.
So,
even if it goes smoothly, which I don't think it will go smoothly.
I don't either.
I mean, that would be too easy and stuff. And I just want to say, when I saw this, and I know last week we had talked about being like, oh, it's not a telenovela, it's not a soap opera, like that's not happening. And then it was like, well, that didn't age well. And so
it did not.
So when this happened, I was pissed. I was like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, are you serious? Like, I couldn't concentrate for this.
Yeah.
So, like, but I don't hate it now. Like, after I rewatched it like 3 times and stuff, I don't hate it, but like also like if I could take it back, I would. Like if I could get something else, I would. But like
me too.
I don't know, like that's just how I feel. And like it's funny because a lot of people were saying like, okay, like at first when like I obviously knew it wasn't Michelle, but like people were like, okay, well if it was Michelle, TK would feel differently. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like the fact that it's Iris, like obviously like Carlos did it out of like, you know, love and like caring and stuff, and like it kind of shows Carlos as a person,
right? And realizing he has his own faults.
Well, not even that, but like it shows Carlos as a person to do this because he was really just caring for her, and especially when she got like sick and like being like, oh, like not being like we need to get divorced right then and there, and be like, oh, well, she needs health insurance.
Right. Yeah, and I know we're going to talk about this later. There's a lot of like people saying, oh, well, you know, somebody said that this has been in the works since the beginning. Raphael's apparently known about this since he got was cast. So there's a lot of different things. And
Tim said that he had been planning this, and this is where I call bullshit. I think you're a liar.
If he had been planning this entire time, the storylines would fit together a lot better.
Yeah, I feel like there was something in the works, but I don't feel like this specific
I don't think it was rock
storyline
solid.
meant to be. Yeah, I think there were pieces that they wanted to have. I just think they never, and then they said because Liv Tyler didn't come back after season 1, they couldn't pursue a Michelle storyline with Carlos because she wasn't there. And then they just kind of decided not to bring Lindsay Fonseca back. That's how you pronounce her last name.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I know there's a lot of like drama behind this. And I mean, obviously it's been said that this secret is going to be kind of, impact the rest of the season. But again, like, I'm glad that TK is taking it well as to be expected. Carlos finally came clean with him. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, you're such a hypocrite, Carlos. You were so mad about TK not telling you all these stuff when he was with his sponsor and all the stuff he was sharing with the sponsor, but not Carlos. And then now all of a sudden you're not sharing this big secret. I'm like, oh,
that's different. That's
very
different.
I have first of all, they're gay and Cooper is a man.
Mm-hmm.
There is logically more reason to be worried and romantically jealous about Cooper because he has the equipment.
Right.
No matter whether or not DK knew about this marriage, and he didn't, he knows Carlos is gay. He might sort of have that firsthand information. Just
I know people are
so the situation is different.
I know it.
And
acting like he had sex with her. It's like, you do realize he gay.
Yeah, and she knew that, so I can't imagine she would force that on him. And they stayed married and they stayed best friends. I don't know. And then she disappeared and kind of, she wasn't around for a long time. I think, so there's just all these different things, and I know we're gonna get more as the season goes on, and hopefully, prayers are that things go smoothly. She's willing to sign divorce papers. We'll talk more about what is said later, but yeah, and there's people that are pissed because that I love you scene that was in the promos was cut. And it's like, okay, guys,
they're engaged. Shut the fuck up.
I know. It's like we're far past they cut the kiss scene. Like, we're far past that. We're seasons past that. They're engaged. Let's not bring that up every time a scene is cut out.
Honestly, I think that I don't think that was necessary at that time.
Yeah, they've said I love you before.
Yeah, it was just like TK. What Carlos needed was TK to reassure him that they were going to get through that together, and not like I love you, because that doesn't fix anything. That just I think what was said was better than just an I love you.
Yeah, like TK basically said that, like, we'll get through this. Like, I'm here for you, like that kind of stuff, and like that was honestly way better than I love you. And like,
and also guys, I can guarantee we're gonna hear an I love you at some point in the season.
Oh,
they're getting married.
Yep, there's confirmation that there's a wedding happening this season, so yeah, we're gonna be good, I promise. So before we get any more of this situation, we see Owen and Judd talking about Owen's newfound interest in motorcycles and his motorcycle group of friends that he's got, and Owen invites Judd to come to one of their events in a couple of days at one of their bars. That would be interesting. I didn't realize that Owen was getting connected with the Sons of Anarchy or something.
I know it. I can't wait until we talk about that, because that was something.
Oh my gosh.
And then so we get more of the emergency calls. So you could see everybody's watching TV again, and they're talking about, there could be this heat wave coming, and but it's a 1 in a million chance. And I love how Marjan's like, well, that's gonna happen.
Okay, that's the thing that probably is like, okay, do you want to jinx it?
Right.
TK texts Buck, I think they jinxed it.
Yeah, really. So we see kind of a couple of things going on. One of the rides is about to break down. They start getting people off. You see Caleb stuck in the porta potty. There's people starting to have heat stroke problems because the heat came through. They can't find Caleb. He calls 911. He's sinking in this porta potty, so it flew and landed in some water of some kind. It ends up being at the dunk tank. And they're like, well, I guess that's not Lake Travis.
I know it.
Right. end up getting him
Loved
out.
that.
Yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting scene, and just seeing her kiss him after what had just
Oh, that
happened
was
and what he was
disgusting.
swimming in. That was very disgusting.
That was nasty. Oh
No
my
love like
god.
true love.
Right.
Ugh,
So yeah, Bree and Caleb, interesting couple. So
I
we get
know.
the one of the operators for the rides comes over to get them. So Trevor and his daughter are back up or are back at the fair, and they're stuck up in one of these rides. So they have to basically come up with a way to jump. So 126 uses one of the canopies or whatever as a rescue blanket, and Trevor and his daughter have to jump, and he ends up having to push his daughter out of the thing, which I was like, yeah, that probably wouldn't go over so well.
Oh, if that was me, I would have been like, oh my god, like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't do heights. I honestly can't.
Yeah. So then we get everybody's in the med tent. I guess they're kind of a cool area to help people that's dealing with the heat stroke, because obviously the heat, a lot of people are getting impacted by it. And Tommy's fixing up the daughter, and then she works on Trevor, and there's this kind of interaction between Tommy and Nancy, and Nancy's like, I see you guys flirting. Basically what it was. And Trevor's talking to Tommy about him being a new single dad, and so it sounds like he's recently divorced or something, and they're new to the area, and so there's some back and forth between him and her, and she ends up giving her number to him and says, oh, we can set up a play date for our daughters since they sound to be about the same age. Then he's like, a play date or a date? I was like, okay.
I was like, get it, Tommy. Like, yes, I'm here for this.
Yes.
Okay.
We love it.
Yeah. So here we get to talk a little bit more about what's going on with Carlos. So Carlos shows up at this shelter. Looks like a kind of a halfway house for maybe the homeless people who've got mental issues, things like that.
Mhm.
And he shows up and he starts asking one of the workers. He's like, originally he's looking for Michelle, because he's thinking, he'll go find Michelle, see if he can get in touch with her, and then find Iris from there. The guy's actually, he's like, well, the reason why you can't get a hold of her is she's in Ecuador. Well, that would explain why he couldn't get a hold of her.
I knew that would be the case. Like, I knew she'd be somewhere else.
Right.
Like, I just knew that she would have moved on to something else. Like, I didn't think she would be in Austin all this time. That's just kind of my
without running across her at some point. Yeah.
Right.
And so the guy's like, well, and Carlos is like, well, I'm actually just looking for her sister, Iris Blake. And he's like, oh, well, she's just up the stairs. #random. So Carlos, it was this very ominous shift in the scene. You see him going up the stairs, and like he's slowly going up there, and you can hear there's some commotion upstairs, like somebody screaming, and they're trying to like talk them down from a schizophrenic episode. And I imagine he's going up there thinking that it's Iris. He gets up there.
I mean, we're all thinking that watching that.
I think so. He gets up there, he walks in this room, and he ends up seeing that it's Iris is actually being the one treating this person who's having this moment. She sees him and runs over to him, gives him this big hug. Then she pulls back and slaps him on the face.
I was glad that that's all the slap wound up being.
Yeah, same.
Like, I was like, yay, we've got that
funny.
out of the way.
I was
I found it hysterical.
Like,
because if I'll be honest, I would also smack my best friend on the face. Like, if the reason came across. Like,
I thought it was funny.
Sometimes a little gentle and well-meaning physical violence.
Right.
Yeah, it was funny.
She slap him, and then she's like, you should have come sooner, and says coffee. It's just
coffee?
Kind of #random.
That was such a mood. Like, I was like, oh my god, I loved it. Like, I know some people were like, who you slapping? But I was like, oh, I thought that was funny. I was like, oh, this is how this happens.
It was hysterical.
It was so funny, especially the way she went from like, like slapping him to be like coffee. Like,
right. And then I think I saw something Raphael said that like when they filmed that, it was like the last scene of the night, and he's like, okay, you can really hit me, you can really slap me, and she did.
Oh my god, I love that.
I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. But so then they go downstairs to a little cafeteria area they have and grab some coffee, and they start talking. Carlos is saying like, or Iris had shared a little bit that she knew, like, thanks for always, looking out for him or for her and her sister. And he's like, yeah, I always made sure to be the one to arrest Michelle whenever she, got into trouble, and apologizes to her for not being there. And she's like, I thought we were past that, or do I need to slap you again?
I love that.
And he starts talking about how he didn't expect to see her so happy and was glad to see it. And she's like, she loves the place she's at. It's called Sanctuary Hearts. She's been working there since she got better. It really helped her out. And by now working for them and helping other people, she actually is now having medical benefits. So she's off. What did she say? He's off the hook for taking care of her now. She's no longer his responsibility. And so obviously between the time that the slap happened and coming to coffee, they like were still talking. So she's like, so tell me about this boy. Gee, 103 anyone?
I know people were posting about this the day after, and I'm like, oh my god, there was a parallel.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, oh my god, that's exactly what Michelle said when she was asking about it. And he's like, TK. He's like, yeah, TK. He's like, he used to be a firefighter, now in New York, now he's a medic. He's been through a lot. Currently not in a coma. I loved that line. Currently not in a coma.
On a shirt. I do.
Like that's no, you know what? That is TK's Facebook status.
Okay,
not in a coma.
And send it to Ronan.
Yes, we need to. There we go. That's a shirt we need to make for our products here. It's like TK Strand, currently not in a coma.
Oh my god, that's even better.
And then
merch dropping, y'all.
Yeah. Carlos tells her that he's the one, and I was like, yay. Hearing Carlos talk about TK so happily is really awesome. And like you can tell the strength that their relationship has. I mean, obviously this is a big wrench in it, that they're still strong and loving each other. And of course Iris asked, is he hot? And Carlos is like, smoking, which firefighter reference there. It
was so cute and like hot at the same time. And I was also just like, Carlos, don't be shy, pull up a picture of him, he's your lock, he's on your lock screen.
Yeah.
If you have a whole like magazine calendar version of him.
Right. And so Iris is like, can't wait to meet him. And Carl's like, yeah, she'll come to the wedding. And she's like, no, I need to meet him before I sign the divorce papers with a clear conscience.
I was like, oh.
And like, yeah.
I found that joke funny, honestly, because like if I was in the same position with my best friend, I'd be like, excuse me, sir.
Same. But I also know she's not joking.
Me. Right. Yeah. He looks at her like she's joking, and then all of a sudden he realizes, like, oh, she's like, how about tomorrow?
Like how am I willingly letting my best friend go through with a marriage without my approval?
Right.
I'm sorry, that's how it works.
That's true.
And I think all my best friends that I ever were close with always wanted me to become the best friend of their significant other they were marrying or getting together with. And like, no, I'm not, because every time you do and you guys get divorced, then I'm stuck getting friends with somebody I shouldn't be friends with.
I know it.
Yeah. It's awkward, very awkward. So after that scene, we go to Owen and Judd heading into the biker bar, and like Judd's teasing, he's like, oh, they don't have gay bars in New York.
I love that line so much. That was a good one.
I did love that.
And when Owen introduces Judd to Red, they're like talking about some things, and it's like getting sketchy with the conversations that he was saying. And this kid comes up and is like introducing himself to Owen, and oh, you're a real life hero, and you were at 9/11, and they're so interesting, and they're welcoming their new member, and this Mikey guy is being inducted into their group. And all of a sudden they start heating up a brand, and this kid gets branded by what looks like some sort of almost Nazi symbol.
It was a Nazi symbol. I was like, damn.
Yeah, it was a version of a swastika.
Yeah,
it was a version of a swastika.
Earlier to confirm. I was like, okay, let me make sure that this is actually it.
I think I was more cringing at the fact, because it's like my roommate and I are just, I'm watching Yellowstone for the first time, and several of the characters brand each other with this Yellowstone brand. And so it's like I've been cringing every time I see that. So like to see it in the show, I'm like, oh my god, somebody's been watching Yellowstone. I couldn't believe
that was happening. Like I was watching it, and I was like yelling at my TV, Colt. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening. And one of my friends, like, we were talking about the episode after, and she's like, no, I was saying the same thing at my TV. Like, I was literally saying Colt, and I was like, yep, that's where my mind went.
I was like, yay, Nazi.
I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, totally. And so obviously while everybody's entertained and chanting, Judd and Owen leave, and they get back to Owen's place, and they're talking, and Owen's like, I can't believe I had brunch with a Nazi. Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's just so Owen.
Siri's really pumping up.
Siri is in a mood tonight, apparently.
She apparently wants to talk about 401.
I guess so. And Owen's like, nope, I'm gonna sell my bike. And Judd's like, don't sell it because you love it. I don't know.
Like it'd be hard to separate it, but you can still
Yeah.
separate, your love for it from
Right.
the Nazi wannabes.
Yeah,
Neo-Nazis,
and Judd's trying to point some things out to Owen, and he's admitting that Catherine took a job in DC. Interesting turn of
which
events.
nice. We know what happened to her at
Right.
least.
I know.
And
I'm
how-
surprised they didn't hold that over us, which I kind of had a feeling that it was going to be like, oh, she's not going to be here, because I saw like that she was in a new show and she went back to like her, I believe it's her natural hair color. I believe she's naturally brunette.
Okay. Yeah, and so you got Catherine's out of the picture. TK and Carlos are like getting ready for the next part of their life. Mateo is spending a lot of time at Nancy's place. So Owen's home a lot, and Judd's been busy with his life at home. So he's talking about Owen being bored, and Owen, I think he's like, yeah, but he's like, I'm not having fun unless I've got dragons to slay. And Judd's trying to say, we slay dragons all the time.
Right. I love that analogy.
Yeah,
I
so
loved this entire conversation.
Same.
Like I've missed our Judd and Owen talks.
I know it's been a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely love their relationship.
Here's the thing that came up for me, because it was, Judd was like, I think you're lonely, and he's like, no, I think I'm bored. The thing is, I don't think it's understood. Owen is actually like incredibly self-aware. He's just not very self-acknowledging. He will see something and he will run from it. But he's aware it's there. He's just running from it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he already knows. Like, it's not a self-awareness issue. It's just a self-accepting / acknowledging issue. And so, I don't even feel like the whole motorcycle thing or anything came from much of a midlife crisis area as we've seen him in before now.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually am glad we're starting to veer a little off that track.
Yeah.
It actually feels more character growth
than
it has in a long time.
I think I'm looking at it right now as Owen is just trying to find himself. He's been doing things for other people for so long and helping other people. So I feel like this is him trying to find something that he's interested in and he can get behind and do something else on his downtime besides sitting at home or playing with Buttercup.
Okay, where is Buttercup?
Good question. I was wondering
Speaking of which,
I was about to be like, how can he be lonely when he has Buttercup? It was funny because one of my friends texted me her whole watching of LoneStar, and I woke up to it, and in the middle of everything she said, it was like, where is Buttercup?
Right. Well, I mean, we've talked about it in other episodes that they're saying that it's harder and harder to work with animals on sets because of the handlers being so in demand for animals for different
I know
things.
Buttercup's in demand, which I'm like, what other shows is he in? I'll watch just for him.
I know. I was
right?
Like, well, what other show has Ben casting? Because I'd be there.
I know.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
I'm prayerfully we'll see more Buttercup. If not, I'm like, my roommate's son has a Siberian Husky. We could donate for a few seasons. Anyways, so our next little scene is Judd and Grace and Tommy and her daughters at church. It was a cute scene, the church, the choir singing "Oh Happy Day." Then the I want to say it's the elders. It could have been one of the other pastors, but they come in and they introduce the new pastor of the church, and out walks Trevor, the person that Tommy had treated twice in a day.
Right.
And anybody number 2.
Yeah, and anybody who saw any of the articles or knew that D.B. Woodside was coming into the show knew that this was kind of the situation, that was the new pastor coming into Austin, and he and Tommy is kind of a new love interest for her. And so, obviously Tommy's like, oh shit. So she ducks and looks back at Grace, and Grace is like, what's wrong? And Tommy's like, I made a pass at my pastor.
I thought that was so funny. And I was like, it's okay, Tommy. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. And he comes out and he's saying something, and he's like, it is an oh happy day. And they start singing it again. And you can see his daughter up in the front, and she sees Tommy in the background. And so she waves at her, and it's like, okay, this is interesting. How are we going to deal with this? And the final scene of the episode is Owen is at home, and somebody knocks on the door. I was like, dang, they really knock heavily. And he
I
gets
know
the
it.
door, and it's this woman, and he's like, oh, you must be here for the motorcycle. I'll pull it around front. And she's like, I'm actually gonna need you to keep that motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then she introduces
He's so
herself as an
cute.
FBI agent, and she wants to talk to him about some of his associates. Dun dun dun.
I love Owen's expression, and that was just kind of like, damn, I'm trying to get rid of these guys right now.
Right.
I know, it's just funny because like Owen is like not like Owen is on the outskirts of all that drama. It's
Mhm.
just he happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
What I'm guessing is that they were staking out like the bar or something and saw them
Oh,
leave
yeah.
and had already been staking them, maybe saw him interacting for a bit. So
Right.
I don't know. I am interested to see how they supposedly linked him seriously, but we'll get all
Yeah.
that next episode.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have the same thought. Like they were just like they had been watching them for a while.
Either that, or they already
Because
have
you do
somebody
not
under.
start making you don't start making your move until you already know a lot.
Right.
Right.
Well, either that, or you already have somebody. They already had somebody undercover who recognized Owen as a local fire captain or something. And
I mean, that would be very possible.
yeah.
With all the publicity that Firehouse has gotten.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, final thoughts on the episode.
I loved this episode. Like I thought it was a really good episode. With
Mhm.
everything in it. Very good. I liked how the emergency wasn't dragged out. Like I did like it. Like the emergency kind of reminded me of the one in OG where it was very low key. Like it definitely didn't take up like all of the episode. I honestly like this one a little bit better just because I like how they spread it out throughout the episode and it wasn't like just a little segment and a little bit of the episode. Like I like how we got like basically 3 separate calls, even though they were all related to kind of almost the same thing. It was very good and good Tarlos. Like I know a lot of people are like, oh, I wish we got more Tarlos, but oh my god, we have so much more.
Half
And I know we're
the
gonna get more.
episode content was Tarlos.
I know. I mean, even myself, I was like, oh, I wish we got like another Tarlos scene, but I know in the like next 4 episodes we're gonna get a ton. And I've also heard like so Tarlos episode, so much Tarlos season, and
Yeah,
I'm
for
very
sure.
excited.
Yes, I'm excited.
My view on like the emergency, it was maybe a little overdone for me. Not necessarily in a bad way. Not in a bad way at all. Like it was maybe a little over dramatized for me. However, I enjoyed it.
Right.
Like it was interesting. It would have been annoying if they tried to like draw it out, but they didn't.
Oh yeah, for
It
sure.
had its run. I think they've realized that they've run out of big emergencies. And so they're making in my opinion, successful transition into making storyline the main plot. And at least until they figure out some great new phenomenon to throw in, or they're spacing out the few that they have left.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
many.
That's such a good move.
It is. It's smart.
Cause yeah. Cause like
Because they've
now,
made their trademark with
yeah.
big ones, but they only have so many, especially balancing 2 shows.
Yeah, because like in 9-1, I feel like their emergency started going down like after the mud. Honestly, at the mudslide, I saw the emergencies going down. So honestly, Lone Star's case where they had 3 strong emergencies, I think it's smart on their end to realize, well, I don't think we really have much more we can do. So let's just like, keep this pretty low key.
Yeah. I love all the Tarlos. Love. I'm very interested to see what happens next with Owen's storyline. I mean, genuinely, if I had to say one thing I didn't like, and we haven't really talked about it in our podcast yet, because I feel like we're all trying to forget it. I feel like they're really trying to make Mateo a lot dumber this season.
I know he said some stupid things, which I kind of glossed over personally in this episode. But I don't know what they're doing with him because I was like, okay, he's not dumb.
He's not.
He's not.
No, he's not at all. In fact, they spent a large amount of the seasons proving that he's smart as a whip. He's young, he's
Right.
inexperienced, but he's smart as a whip.
Mhm.
And of course, it's always cringy for me to see Nancy and Mateo. They are not my comfort straits. So that's always a little bit of a bummer. But honestly, other than being a little disappointed at how they were portraying Mateo, didn't really impact this episode too much for me. So
Yeah,
it's fine.
I get that.
Really, I just enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I love the episode. I think they've realized that these multi-episode arcs are more challenging to film, but they're toning
Right.
it back. And I've noticed that and over the last few seasons with 911 and now with Lone Star, I feel like this was really done well. Like there was storyline, but there was emergencies mixed in. And I know we only got one like real Tarlos scene, like TK and Carlos together, but we had scenes related to them.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I really like that. I like this, how like the growth we've seen in TK and how he reacted to Carlos's news. I'm set that it took this long for Carlos to tell TK the secret, but I'm not mad at Carlos for doing something in his past. And I'm not mad at Carlos for helping a friend out. Wish he would have told TK sooner.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like that. And so I'm not mad at the storyline. I think some of the ways people are like interpretations and what is being said, I'm just kind of taking that with a grain of salt and just kind of putting it to the side and just saying like focusing on what we have content wise in the shows. And this is what Carlos did to help a friend, and that's why the divorce never happened after she came back into the world. Because we did do some research, and to be deemed deceased, you have to have been missing for 7 years. And as far as we know, she was only missing for 2 or 3 years. So that wasn't long enough to be declared dead. And unless a family member pushed it, and Michelle was pushing that she was still alive. So,
even if they tried to push it, it makes you look a bit suspicious in their disappearance. And also, it's not as successful.
So I feel like there was weird, situations that happened. And I think Carlos, I can imagine Carlos at the beginning of his and TK's relationship when she came back was more like I don't want to say anything to rock the boat. And then it just kind of continued to happen because he didn't want to like stress TK out, make TK freak out, cause TK to stumble, not wanting to be the one to cause TK to stumble.
Well,
but
let's also just remember he's a little anxious boy and
Yeah.
he's having a little bit of trouble.
Right. And I'm not trying to justify what he did because, I'm still upset that he didn't tell TK sooner, but I'm glad he finally did tell him. Like we said, we're curious how and why Andrea knows. Yeah, so that's what I'll say on that. And I know we'll have more time to talk about it in future episodes. I'm excited the season's back. I'm excited that we're back to, new content to talk about. And we don't have theories anymore. We'll have like things happening and we'll actually see it. So I know we have fan thoughts. I think it's time to share those because I'm curious what everybody else is saying.
Okay, so first episode was tense, but rather funny with a couple one-liners such as when Mel was pushed out of the ride and Tarlos was great. TK remained calm, though through some shocking, and while I'm annoyed Carlos didn't tell him, I understand what happened in the past. Also, Iris and Carlos talk was amazing. The slap, currently not in a coma and smoking in the same ways. She was too nice compared to some of the rumors for next week. Okay. That's interesting. I mean, I think we're all thinking it just based on the stuff I've read. Like, honestly, if I'm being honest, I haven't really read the articles just because I don't know. Like, I just haven't really dove into them. But also, I just I didn't do that before the premiere. Like the week of the premiere, I did not read any of those articles because I knew they were gonna spoil it, and I was like, I do not want to be spoiled. And I was like, please nobody send me these because I don't want to read it.
Right.
Like I was just like, nope, I'm not doing that to myself. Like I've read a lot enough. And like all these articles weren't gonna be released before giving spoilers, but I was like, I'm not taking any chance.
I mean, I'll be honest. I don't mind the storyline right now. If I'm being honest, it is still a little bit of a stupid storyline.
I mean,
but
it's
so
very
far they're
stupid.
doing well with it.
It's
Like, they're doing well with it. It's just dumb as fuck.
It's
Um,
dumb.
I
It
agree.
reminds me of soap opera.
Yep, me too.
Exactly. Apparently, we are in a telenova. We'll call Eddie. He'll bring his abuela.
Oh my god.
Watch popcorn.
Yes.
I'm okay with it as long
Yeah.
as Eddie makes an appearance.
Right.
Please.
Like, okay, it's funny because somebody said, I forget where, but somebody was like, okay, this storyline reminds me of Buck being a sperm donor.
Oh gosh.
So, like, stupid storylines.
Yeah, basically, I don't know, somebody made a video saying like, oh my god, I have to find it, but they were like, I don't know what's wrong with these 911 showrunners, but something's going on.
I just want to
Okay.
know what they have in that, like, writing room.
Right.
I
Like,
want to know. Yeah, I was like saying the other day,
what
I
are
want to
you-
know like what was going on in those writers' room for them to be like, let's do this season.
Yeah.
Okay, other one.
Yeah.
I don't hate the episode, but I expected more from it. I don't know. It felt like it needed something more, and even though Carlos being married plot was disappointing, I understand why he did what he did back then, but I don't like that he hit from TK, and I don't buy all the talk about how it was planned since the beginning. Okay, I don't buy it either, so I understand that.
Mhm.
Because
Definitely not.
Carlos didn't act like he cared enough. I
I
mean,
agree.
maybe he thought she died and wanted to move on, and
Mhm.
if it was planned, they would have at least hinted and something was going on
Right.
between them, or mentioned how they were besties. However, I really liked the how TK reacted to it. He was clearly upset, but also understood why Carlos did what he did. I liked Iris in this episode. She seems cool, even though from the promo she's going to cause some trouble. I mean, of course, drama.
Mhm.
And I hate that they're doing that, but whatever. I guess we need drama.
Mhm.
I wish that
Yep.
we have seen. I guess have seen just Charlie.
Mhm.
I can't.
Yeah.
Got more Judd, Grace, Paul outside of work. Owen's storyline was fine. Looking forward to it where it is going, because I read parts in an interview with Tim. Anyways, I'm just gonna get to the last part. If you read this, thank you so much. I really like listening to you guys, and
Well,
Well,
thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. We
Yes,
love
I
hearing
appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. It gets challenging to read a lot.
I know.
A few things I do agree with. Carlos definitely was very according to, like, if this is something that had been planned and he had been best friends with Iris, he did not show a lick of remorse for her, so that should have been explained in the episode or something. I
See,
feel
that's why I'm
like,
calling bullshit on them planning
yeah,
it.
and I think
Yeah, same.
I feel like, I mean, I've lost friends, and I've had friends pass away, so like I have had to grieve and move on. So
Same.
I feel like Carlos had done that, and then like with Michelle keep drudging it up, he may have just tried to like emotionless about it. So like everyone's like, oh, watching season 1's gonna be totally different now because we know the truth.
I don't really
and-
think that.
It's just
Yeah,
gonna make it make less sense.
Like,
yeah,
people
and
are like, it's ruined, and I'm like, okay, you're just being dramatic. Like, I don't
No, it's
think
not
that. Like, I
ruined
do
at all.
agree that like it's kind of weird thinking that about, like, especially in that scene in 103 and stuff, and like her going on and on about Iris, and just even in that whole season, like we have
Mhm.
no knowledge that like Carlos even knew Iris. There was always that question,
Right.
like, did they know each other? Were they like
Yeah.
friends or something? Let alone we find out no, they were
Right.
best friends. And I'm just very confused. Like, I really hope they give us some sort of flashback, because I really need all the answers.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
throw this out there because I know we talk about fan fiction once in a while. I want to throw out props to the fans who 3 years ago were writing stories that Iris and Carlos were best friends in high school. Cause like y'all figured it out. Just we didn't all figure that out. But yeah, I think something was planned. I just don't think the whole thing was fleshed out until now. And even
Right,
now
exactly.
it's yeah. So I think what was known was you're married to a woman And I think that was all known at the time.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with
Just
that.
not like there was no specifics. And I know that it was unexpected for Liv Tyler to not come back because, and you know, we know why. Because of COVID, she was living out of the country, couldn't be traveling back and forth with her family, and I get that. So there was a reason why she chose not to come back, but that didn't mean that Iris couldn't come back. So like they were saying that the reason why they didn't want to deal with the storyline like that is because Michelle wasn't there to have like be a part of it with Iris. So yeah, I'm curious to see, and yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the promo for the next episode. So I'll save the little bit I have to say after that. But any other final thoughts before we talk about the promo?
No, I don't think so. Like I'm really interested to see what they do, especially knowing that like I know 1 through 4 will be an arc. I already have a feeling, not just for Carlos but for Owen too. So I'm just very interested to see what they do. And like Ronan's been teasing like all these episodes, they're gonna be like, this Tarlos scene's my favorite, this, and I'm like, and I know Ronan's like, he posted such cute photos of him Rafa the other day. It was so cute, and I already know that he's gonna be posting all this stuff, and I'm just so excited.
Yeah, I'm loving it. All right, so promo for 402. So I kind of feel like this wasn't just for 402. I feel like it's for the next few episodes.
Oh yeah,
so
for sure.
Take these scenes with a grain of salt. They might not all be in the next episode. We get a Tarlos kiss, and we see Tarlos sitting on the couch talking to Iris. And Iris is like, "So you want to get married?" And TK's like, "Yeah, that's the plan." We see, they're smiling and the guys are happy, which is awesome. Owen's talking about this group that he knows is called the Honor Dogs, and they're planning an attack. He's sitting down with the FBI agents. Owen tells Judd how something big is coming. You see a school bus getting blown up by some bombs, and it looked like it was like practice for something. Owen's asking the 126 for help. Tommy says always, and so I'm not really sure what all that's going to be a part of. Carlos and SWAT going into a house. We see Sergeant O'Brien again, which we know Owen has a run-in with him, I believe, in the next couple
episodes. I have so many interesting thoughts about that.
Yeah. Well, and if you remember, Sergeant O'Brien was a motorcycle cop, so he may be a part of the FBI task force. And then Big Fire, Owen knocked out, so that's going to be interesting to see. And then Owen was talking about how this isn't the end, this is just the beginning. So I feel like you're talking about the arc, I think this is it. There's the next few episodes are going to be interesting. I think Gabriel is going to be a part of so it's weird because the FBI is involved in this, but as from what I understand, the Texas Rangers are like the FBI in Texas. So why is the FBI involved and not the Rangers? So
maybe, I don't know, maybe it's like bigger than like just in that area.
Because as far as I know, like Texas Rangers, yes, FBI in Texas, but they're not actually federal.
Texas,
wrong, but they're not exactly. So if this needs to be involved federally on a federal level, that's why we've got the FBI, which terrorists, and also we have the whole terrorist thing. I don't know how much the Texas Rangers deal with terrorism.
Right.
That's Homeland Security.
Yeah,
and FBI.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's like also like it is definitely curious like where they're taking all of this. And like we know from last season that O'Brien is a motorcycle cop, so I'm sure that's going to be involved in the motorcycle situation. Hell, he may be on the task force that Owen's brought in on. Or
I have a feeling they're gonna work together. Then I also had this weird feeling where I had this feeling yesterday where I had this thought, and I was like, so what if O'Brien becomes like the new Billy? Not like
Bro,
in a bad way.
I just had that thought.
Not in a bad way, but like what if him and Owen, because Owen is talking about being lonely. What if they like become friends or something?
Right. Well, and it's so funny
I
too.
Sort of think.
It's so funny too because we just watched season 1 and 2 of Yellowstone, and like the guy who plays O'Brien is in season 2 of Yellowstone. And so I'm like, oh my God, I've seen him in so many things, but
me too.
Holy crap. Like he's back. And I'm like, oh no, what is this going to bring? I'm nervous.
Okay. So, the guy that plays O'Brien and Iris, I don't think it was at the same time, but they were both in the same show. And honestly, I realized this and I was like, okay, I started looking her up yesterday to see what she was in. And I was like, why does she look so damn familiar? And then I was like,
was she in Timeline?
No, that wasn't the one. I don't know if she was in that though. I don't remember.
The guy who plays O'Brien was in that. That's the one main one I remember of him in. Anyways, yeah. So we've got a lot of great stuff coming up. A lot of stuff to look forward to. There's, definitely some concerns that Iris is not going to sign the divorce papers initially.
She's gonna drag her feet for sure.
I feel like she's gonna drag her feet. I also feel like it has been mentioned that she's gonna give TK kind of she's gonna give him a hard time. And I think there's a scene or a picture that we've seen of Carlos with his hands on TK's shoulders, and TK looks really upset. And they're in the same outfits that they are in during this time when she's sitting down with them at the Tarlos loft. So I'm like, okay, so either it's beforehand where TK's nervous about meeting up with her because he's worried about her not doing it or something, or it's afterwards and Carlos is trying to comfort him. So I don't know.
So I have a theory, and it's a very outlandish theory. So probably not happening.
We can do outlandish.
We remember she was living in a homeless camp. My theory is that she finds out that TK is a recovering addict, and she has concerns on that. And this is coming from someone who did also date a recovering addict and had a lot of people concerned both rationally and irrationally. I wonder if it's that.
It's possible.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair theory.
And it's not uncommon for friends to give people who are trying to be a part of their fellow friends life, a hard time, and wanting to make sure they're not going to hurt them. I get that.
Yeah. So I like the storyline as it is right now. If Iris is a bitch, I'm gonna have a lot more issues with it. And that is
have words if that happens.
Right.
That is the only conceivable way to me that she could raise any concern about their relationship. Not that it's a necessarily valid concern, or not valid, but like reasonable. Reasonable is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and
it's better than anything else.
Right. And I think there was talk about something along the lines of her getting hurt, or we know that Carlos is going to get hurt at some point. So we're like, maybe she'll see TK and Carlos when he's hurt and how much TK loves Carlos or something. And that'll make her change her mind or something like that. And I'm like, okay, maybe. But yeah,
I've seen that theory a lot, and I kind of agree. Like, I could definitely see that happening. We'll kind of see, but it's definitely interesting.
I'm reserving judgment until I actually see it.
I have a feeling it's probably blown out of proportion because it usually is. However, we'll see. We're literally only in the first episode. We have a lot. I'm so
excited.
I know.
Oh my gosh!
Like, I'm just happy that we're finally here.
Yes.
It feels so nice.
Like, I missed my voice.
I know it.
Yeah, no, I'm just really glad the show is back. I'm glad that we've got more Tarlos, that they're not broken up like the beginning of season 3. I never want to even think about that happening again.
I know.
And I'm excited for what the season's coming. I think I was a little bummed when I heard the ratings were a hair lower than they have been in the past, but I know with the change of dates and the change of day of the week, that may impact things because there's other shows on those nights. So not too worried about it right now, but I also know that if it continues, I'm going to be a little concerned about ratings for next season. So we'll see.
The only reason why I'm not is just because the ratings from TV literally aren't like the final numbers. Like, they take the numbers that people watch on DVR and Hulu for like the past week. And also I'm not concerned. It's not like super low.
Yeah. So yet to be seen. I'm excited though. We're back, and I'm glad we have more content, because I know we were, admittedly, when they did change us to it like a week later, I was like, oh crap, what are we going to talk about? So I'm glad we figured something out, but I was like, I'm liking that we have content now.
I know, it's just nice to talk about fresh things and stuff. Like, we've been having so much fun with other stuff, but it's also nice just to be talking about stuff that's happening right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening and joining us. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. You're also on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and everywhere you get your podcasts. On iTunes and Spotify, please rate us and leave us a review. It would mean a lot to us. You can also follow the podcast on our socials at 911LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can also join our Discord server. We've been having some great conversations there lately.
Oh, yeah.
Just talking about the new season. So definitely join us. The link is in the description of the podcast and also in our Instagram bio.
You guys follow me, Katie, at Full of Tarlos on Instagram and TikTok.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at Ronan Rafa 911 on Instagram and at CheapGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter. Bye.
Bye.